Well, it's absolutely packed here in the Dirksen Senate building as this confirmation hearing for Kevin Warsh comes to a close. We just saw the chair of the Senate Banking Committee, Tim Scott, exit the hearing room. We're waiting to see if we get any glimpse of Kevin Warsh exiting, so that's why you may see me continuing to turn around for any update.
You do what you got to do.
A few different lawmakers. Well, as always, we're running around trying to bring you the latest. But we did get a sense, of course, today during this hearing from lawmakers that really did focus their questions today on the future of the Federal Reserve's independence. And we heard Kevin Warsh respond to the grilling, pledging to act independently. And as you mentioned, pull out that quote saying that he will not be a sock puppet, in the words of the ranking member, Senator Elizabeth Warren. At one point, Warsh said in part, quote, "The president nominated me for the position, and I'll be an independent actor if confirmed as chairman of the Federal Reserve." And he went on to say that President Trump has never asked him to commit to any particular interest rate decision. Now, the issue is typically this would be considered a pretty smooth sailing nomination. We know Republicans, by and large, are on board with trying to get Kevin Warsh confirmed. But the issue is there is still that one holdout, Senator Tom Tillis, the Republican from North Carolina, who can make good on his threats, considering Republicans only have a 13-11 majority on this committee to withhold the nomination from advancing to the full floor until the legal matter against Fed Chair Jerome Powell is resolved. And Joe, I actually caught up with Tom Tillis after the hearing. He came out, spoke to us reporters, and he's appearing to float a potential off-ramp that he would be in favor of congressional oversight into the Fed's renovations in exchange for the DOJ suit being dropped. Now, that latter point is the important part that he hasn't moved on, that the DOJ has to drop this legal matter into Jerome Powell. And President Trump indicated as early as today in an interview that he's going to double down on the investigation. But I bring this up because it does appear significant in that a few months ago, Tom Tillis told me that there couldn't be a swap, a congressional investigation in exchange for the DOJ investigation. So maybe this is something that we should keep our eyes on going forward if the Senate Banking Committee and House Financial Services Committee join together to look into the Fed's renovation costs.
Absolutely fascinating. Tyler, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to it. And our regards to Kevin Warsh if you end up bumping into the nominee. That's the real stuff there, guys. That's the hallway of the Dirksen Senate office building and all of its glamour. Producer James was there this morning to pick up his congressional badge. You got to get the credentials there. He said the line was around the block, not to get credentials, to attend this hearing. Not only did you have all the lawmakers there, but half of Washington was paying attention to this. And you've got to think that President Trump was watching and listening. We haven't even mentioned Iran yet, by the way, because he's watching and listening to a lot of things in the White House right now. Stuart Paul, aforementioned, was steeped in that hearing today and joins us now as a voice on the Fed, Bloomberg Economics U.S. economist. This is the man we call to talk to around Fed meeting time. And at some point, Stuart, it's going to likely be a Chair Warsh we're talking about. And I guess that's kind of the weird part about all of this. Everyone, Democrats and Republicans in that hearing room, will tell you that he's going to be confirmed. But we have no idea when the confirmation vote is going to happen because of the DOJ investigation and the Tillis blockade. How long can this standoff go on for?
Well, it can last through the end of this year. Tyler hit the nail on the head. She's exactly right that right now Tom Tillis has a lock. And so the confirmation process is locked down. Tom Tillis is not going to let up until the DOJ investigation is dropped. As you heard from Tyler, it sounds like he's willing to take on oversight responsibilities in the committee and oversee the Fed's expenses. That's if the DOJ drops the investigation, and then Warsh can proceed. But until the DOJ drops the investigation, you are at a standstill. There is not enough votes to get Warsh through committee and to the Senate floor to get him fully confirmed. And so this really does come down to the Department of Justice and the president deciding which they want more. Do they want to investigate, or do they want someone who can perhaps deliver interest rate cuts? That's really all that it ends up coming down to.
So how did he do? Stuart Paul, I'm curious your general insights here, because I'm not sure this changed any minds, right? If you supported the Warsh nomination, you're probably pretty happy. And if you didn't, he didn't change your mind. He did say the Fed must stay in its lane. He said all the things he was supposed to say about supporting Fed independence. When asked directly, he said he would not be the president's sock puppet. He did talk about a new framework for addressing inflation. We didn't get a lot of details on that, but did he move the needle in either direction?
No, he also didn't need to move the needle in either direction. This was always going to go down as a party lines vote. Ultimately, when the time comes for this, there will be a party lines vote in committee. There'll be a party lines vote in the Senate chamber itself. So all he really needed to do was stay reasonably steady and not make any unforced errors. So what were the sort of errors that he could have made? Well, he could have revealed too much about the framework that he plans to bring to the Federal Reserve. He did not reveal very much about the framework he would bring to the Federal Reserve. Senator Van Hollen, in a line of questioning, was actually very interesting. He noted that Governor Warsh, in his prepared remarks, noted that basically inflation is everywhere and always a monetary phenomenon, supposing the current set of circumstances where inflation is being pushed higher by an energy supply shock. That's not a monetary phenomenon, really. And so Van Hollen pursued this line of questioning. Should the Fed be addressing this, or should the Fed be perhaps inappropriately cutting rates and fueling inflation? Warsh would not take the bait. He would not offer any sort of framework. He would not capitulate to any sort of the pressure that comes from being under fire. It was actually a reasonably interesting dialogue back and forth, and Warsh did not fall into any potholes, really. He did a fine job.
All right.